is going down the path it's went down. This is why it's been down the path that it's been down. And it continues down that path is because you began to disobey just a little bit of God's laws. But it was a slippery slope. You say, oh, I know God said don't eat pork, but I'll still eat pork. I know God said keep the feast days. I don't want to keep the feast days. I know God said whatever it may be within God's law that people say, keep the Sabbath. I don't want to do it. But it goes on. Everyone has that. So then how does that end, right? Everyone has that moment where they say, I know God. I know. But then you stopped at the Sabbath. Somebody else kept going to fornication, adultery. They kept going down this list of things where they say, I don't really, do I really care? I don't know. God really, does he really care if I do this or not? And you go down this path where now no one cares about anything because you've disregarded God's commandments. I had a conversation with a brother this morning, and he was telling me the ordinances, right? He tried to make this separation that doesn't exist. One, ordinances means a decree. It's not the laws of God. It's the laws of somebody else, right? So he tries to tell me that the ordinances were done away with, right? These ordinances were done. So I asked him, well, how can you tell someone not to marry their sister? He says, I go to the ordinances. Well, you can't say the ordinances are going away, then go back to the ordinances to give a ruling. It doesn't make any sense. You can't do this. Right? You put yourself in a conundrum. And this is the conundrum that the church has put itself in today. This conundrum of we say the laws are done away with, but I still want you to live righteous. Well, how do I know what righteousness is? James tells us that doers of the word look into the mirror and they see the mirror. I have lost the respect I once had for you. That's okay. God bless you. That's okay. I love you. That's okay. I love you. Isn't Nazarene Christianity just like Orthodox Christianity? No, it's not. And I'll tell you why. Orthodox eat pork. Orthodox don't keep the feast days, don't keep the Sabbath. Orthodox add to the laws of God more sense than one. All right. Orthodox adds to the laws of God and the rulings of God in more sense than one. They add things that don't exist within the scriptures, but to their doctrine. The veneration of Mary, the veneration of saints, things that don't appear in the scriptures, they add these things to their doctrine. Here's the worst part. They do exactly what the Messiah told you not to do. The Messiah said to the Pharisees, he said, you make null and void the commandments of God, teaching the commandments of men as doctrine. That's exactly what they do, right? God says, pray to me. But their doctrine of men say, no, pray to me and the saints and Mary. Catholics go even further because then, I saw one in the comments today. They said, Mary bless, like, may Mary bless your daughter. What you mean, Mary bless? Where y'all get that from? That ain't in the Bible. That ain't in the Bible. Mary, what you mean, Mary bless? Mary bless what? Mary need to be blessed. Shout out to Mary. Mary's the greatest woman ever existed. Mary need to be blessed. Mary can't bless me. It's all additions. It's additions to the scriptures. We don't believe in additions to the scriptures. We believe in following the scriptures as they're written. I mean, you're doing exactly what Christ told you not to do. You fell into the same thing that Christ came to rid the world of. You made commandments of men doctrines of God. And say, I know it's a commandment of men, but I'm going to keep doing it anyway. That doesn't make any sense. She is. That doesn't mean she can bless you. I agree. Mary is the greatest woman who ever lived. That doesn't mean she can bless you. John the Baptist is the greatest man that ever lived. But can John the Baptist bless you? No, John the Baptist can't bless you. Right? So two things can be true at one time. You can be right on half. Mary's a really good woman. Great woman. Amazing woman. Right? She says you are chosen amongst women. That's what the angel told her. I agree with all of this. I shouldn't pray to her though. I only pray to God. So these are all additions. Not only do you have additions, but you have subtractions and additions. So you just made a new faith. Right? You made a new faith. You added things and you took things away. Like it's not even like you just added on top. I don't mind. It's kind of why Christmas, for example. Christmas doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that you tell me not to keep the Feast of Dedication or not to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, but to celebrate Christmas. What are you talking about? How can you tell me not to do something God told me to do, to turn around and tell me to do something God didn't necessarily command himself? God told me to keep tabernacles in his law. He said, keep tabernacles. I don't mind Christmas. I think Christmas is a good thing. Celebrate the birth of the Messiah. Cool, that's fine. All right. How could you tell me not to do something God told me to do, then turn around and tell me to do something God didn't tell me to do? I like what Polycarp said when it came to Passover. God told us to celebrate Passover on the 14th of Nisan. That's when God said celebrate Passover. They tried to tell Polycarp, an apostle of John, no, we're not going to celebrate the 14th of Nisan anymore. We're going to change this up. Polycarp said, what you mean? You ain't changing nothing. You say what you want. I'm keeping it on the 14th of Nisan. You do whatever you feel like doing. Me, I'm gonna just listen to what God said. I ain't going back and forth with you. That's the same way we should be today, right? I'm not going back and forth with you about what God told me to do. If you know, Christmas, I like it. But I like the Feast of Tabernacles, and the Feast of Dedication is the same as Christmas, but I like the Feast of Tabernacles. Well, not necessarily because Christ kept dedication, so then that also puts it on a different level. But let's say Purim. I like Purim and Christmas. I also like Tabernacles and Feast of Dedication. I'm getting my info from the book that God gave me, right? God ain't giving no new revelation. The revelation that we have is through the scriptures, and then we just understand the scriptures. Now, God will give us some revelation, but it's not new revelation. God ain't giving no new revelation. New revelation cease with the Messiah. All of them. You can go 66 or 73 book canon. I don't mind either one. I don't mind a 66 book canon or a 73 book canon. I don't mind either canon. Either canon works for me. Bro, your denomination started in the 19th century. My denomination started with the apostles of Jesus Christ.
That's a fact. What are you talking about? What denomination are we a part of?
It started with the apostles of Christ Jesus and Christ Jesus himself. What denomination? I don't have a denomination. What I'm teaching comes directly from the scriptures. The apostles kept the feast days. The apostles ate clean foods. The apostles followed the commandments of God. So,
The apostles kept their feast days after Christ's death.
yep. And resurrection.
So why aren't you?
So I don't really know what you mean. No, that's not next. My denomination started with Christ Jesus and his apostles. They kept all of them. We have examples of the apostles keeping most of the feast days, and the ones we don't have an example of the apostles keeping, an example of Christ keeping. So I mean, I don't know what you mean.
Christ even kept the feast of dedication.
Yep. So you have to explain what am I making up? What was made up in the 19th century? The only things that are made up are the doctrines that we don't believe. Like how you believe in God but not the Bible, you can't pick and choose. Yeah, what God do you believe in? You don't believe in the Bible. What God do you believe in then?